Good morning, everyone. How are you doing this morning? Oh my gosh, we're getting close to the end of podcast week. So let me go ahead and get over here and kind of see who's hanging out with us this morning. I know it is a Friday. I thank you for being here. If you're watching, if you're off doing something fun, go have fun. The videos will be here, kinda. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more, and had an amazing interview with Mr. Mark Asquith over at Podcast Websites yesterday. And you know what? There's some interesting things I learned. I don't do a lot of interviews, but I kind of learned a little bit of something. So next Saturday, when we do Behind the Scenes Saturday, I'm going to kind of tell you some of the challenges I actually had with that interview and actually having to do it and seeing where I need to make changes. And that's the beautiful thing about doing the podcasting, doing the live streaming. Whatever you do, when you start, you can always get better. And the interview yesterday was just a way for me to remind myself there's some things that I need to practice. So that's why I am so on you to really just start doing whatever it is that you want to do, because it is so important. It is so important so that you can keep learning and keep growing. Oh my gosh, it's going to be so exciting. For all of you who are watching, I am Phylecia Jones, budgetologist and solopreneur, money management expert, and you are watching Ask the Budgetologist. And I come to you live every morning and answer any questions you have about business, budgeting, and solo entrepreneurship. And today we're going to talk about how to take your live stream and turn it into a podcast so that you can have a double dose of getting in front of speaker coordinators. Now, the whole week, all of this week, we've been talking about how to launch, leverage, and land speaking gigs with your podcast. And I have been very adamant about you thinking about adding this into your business as a way to get more gigs and to get in front of speaker coordinators, okay? And this is so powerful. We talked with Mark Asquith yesterday, and pretty much his entire business now was launched because of his podcast. All of his speaking engagements, if you ever go over to excellence-expected.com, the man has literally traveled all over the world speaking. He has met some amazing people. He calls them friends, and he wasn't just name dropping. He really is friends with all of those people. And I didn't know he was friends with those folks until later. You know how you meet someone and you think they're just really cool, and then you realize like, oh, that's who you hang out with? Okay, cool. But that's one of the things I want to let you know. That's the power of podcasting, to launch you into more speaking gigs, to launch you into a company that you probably didn't even really plan on having, but has come from this idea of being able to get out there, get your voice out there. Hey, Lori, over on Instagram, how are you doing this morning? So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to keep talking about this, having this conversation about getting more speaking gigs by leveraging podcasting. But if you are a live streamer like me, you can, and I won't even say repurpose. It's just a very different method of getting out there with your podcast. So, hey, Twyla. Hey, Erica. How you doing? Hey, Adonia. Hey, Annette. How are you doing? Wow. Thank you for all of you who watched the replay yesterday, who watched the interview. Thank you so very much. I definitely want to thank all of you for being here. Now, we end tomorrow. So what's going to happen with Podcast Week? Tomorrow, I'm going to be on the road, so it's going to be very interesting. But I'm going to go into the tools and tech that I use to do all of this, the lighting, the cameras, everything. Tomorrow is a tech day. Sunday is just going to be a wrap up of everything that we learned, and letting you know what the next steps are. That's what Sunday is going to be about. And then we'll get back to normal programming next week. But today, we're going to talk about the double dose of hitting speaker coordinators on both sides, with a podcast, with a live stream, with your email, to get in front of them, to let them know that you have content. And if you paid attention to yesterday's interview, and for those of you on Instagram, I couldn't do the interview live because it was only over here on Facebook. But just check my feed, or go and check the bio, and then you can go and listen or watch the interview here on Facebook, or over on YouTube. You can actually watch it on YouTube as well. Hey, Denise, how you doing? Annette is saying podcasting is how I met you. So yes, I get to meet awesome people. Yay. I actually did meet Annette through podcasting. But if you listen to the interview yesterday, Mark said something that was kind of powerful, and it was just a little gloss over thing. But when he started getting speaking gigs, he said at this point he already had 600 podcasts under his belt, including he turns his podcast into blog posts on different levels, not all the time, but on different levels. So he already had the content. He couldn't dispute that, when he went to speaker coordinators, he was saying, I already got the content. I already know what I'm talking about. So that's the beauty of podcasting. That's the beauty of being able to hit them on both sides so that you can say, hey, I'm not just anyone out here not doing anything. And it's not that you can't get speaking gigs like that. Hey, Neurotrain, how you doing? It is not that you can't get speaking gigs like that. It's just we need to stack the deck so that they won't say no to us. Now, I know a lot of people go the route of writing a book. A lot of people go the route of trying to get television and PR. All are good. This is just a different method so that you can get out there even faster. Books take time. Trying to get on television takes time. This podcasting thing doesn't really take that long to get going. It really doesn't take that long. So we're going to talk about that. Of course, if you need me for anything, if you have any questions, we're going to get deep into it. One more public service announcement before we get started. If you have been enjoying Podcast Week, I want you to let me know. I mean, seriously, I would love for you to go leave a review. You can send me a review through Messenger. You can leave it on Keep Up with Mrs. Jones. You can leave it in the DM over on Instagram. Because what I want to do and let you know that all of this week, I'm going to put it into a little course. And if you leave a review and if you let me know you left a review, I will give you lifetime access to this course. Now, outside of the videos that you've seen, what I'm going to do, all of the notes that I've taken from this week, I'm going to go and create templates. I'm going to go create cheat sheets to go with each video and give you some things to think about to help you launch. Everything is going to sit in that course, and you got to give me about 30 days to get it all together. But what I want to do for all of you who have been watching, who have been listening, if you leave a review and let me know that you left it, I'll give you free lifetime access. I'll give you lifetime access. Let me know how you feel about that. And you don't have to leave a review and you don't have to get lifetime access because these videos are actually going to go disappear. Ooh, I know they're going to go disappear at some point, but if you want some extra templates, if you want some extra help, you want to get all of the notes, that are going to be nice and clean and pretty, I want to give you lifetime access to that. But in exchange, I'm asking at least for a review of what you've learned, what you're going to put in action from watching Podcast Week, and where everything is going to go. That's it. And for those of you who have signed up to be on my email list, remember, I've given you the date, August 31st, 9 a.m. Mountain, 11 a.m. Eastern. You're going to get an invite to a free class, one time only, no replays, no videos. You're not going to get a recording. You're going to have to show up live. You're going to get a free class, and it is how to land your next 5 speaking gigs. I'm just going to give you everything, but you're going to have to show up live to get it. It is not going to be here on Facebook. We're going to come off Facebook and go into a webinar feature, but I'm going to give you the class and I'm going to give you some ways so that you can get that class free for lifetime, like big time, free for lifetime. All right. So let me know how all of that is going. All right. Is that your podcast movement t-shirt? Love the gear this week. This is the podcast websites t-shirt. So for those of you who actually have been enjoying hearing about podcast websites, I'll stand up for a bit. If you've been enjoying all of the gear from podcast, the information about podcast websites, if you are thinking about joining podcast websites, please, I encourage you to go and schedule a one-on-one session with them. They like to send out gear, and I got to give Mark and his team, they got some pretty cool gear, but they designed this for Philadelphia. So for all of you, just to let you know, this is Rocky running up the stairs. This is the city of brotherly love. I mean, you get the theme. The man is smart. I got to give him that. The man is smart. So that is the theme. That was the theme this year for podcast websites. And they were just throwing out a little love to the city of brotherly love. Mark loves the movie Rocky. So if you send him an email, you can send it at mark@podcast websites and just say, hey, I like Rocky too. Or you could say he calls himself Mark Kent because he loves Superman as well. So if you send him emails, if you send him a tweet, just say Phylecia told me to email you and say, I like Rocky as well. And I like your shirt. Let's see if you do that. Do you want audio, video, or written testimonials? Whatever you want to do. Whatever you want to do. I always love video. You know I love video testimonials. Video testimonials go on the front page of my website, just FYI. That means you get to go on the front page and you get to go wherever I go. See how that works? See how that works? All right, let's get into the content today. All right. Turning your live stream into a podcast. How many of you live stream? Raise your hand. I know I'm like in class. How many of you live stream? All right. If you live stream, that's good. That is good content for you to use so that you can at least try to get in front of speaker coordinators. But we're going to have to figure out a way to clean up the live stream so that you can turn it into a podcast as well. So now this is double duty, and I'm going to break down exactly what I do to turn this live stream into a podcast. It's going to be a little bit of work, but what we're going to talk about are two different things. It's not four, just two different things. So you're going to have to really pay attention to what I'm saying. And you're going to have to kind of figure out where you want to start. All of this week, I've been giving you all the deets. And that's why I love podcast websites. I'm going to put the comment link down in the comment box so that you can get the free coupon and you can sign up and blah, 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 blah. But that's why I was saying, that's why I like podcast websites, so that you don't have to waste time like I did just to get all the bits and pieces together to start a podcast. Because to start a podcast requires some steps. And I scoured the internet for the best steps, all the steps. Oh my gosh. There's still some things, even with my podcast, that I haven't really finished yet. But I want to step you through it because it's not step one or step two. It's just a step in the master plan. So I'm going to break down launching the podcast. Then I'm going to talk about the live stream. And then there has to be a way that we have to connect the two together. Okay. And this is where we get into the weeds. And I want to let you know, if you get in the weeds with all of this stuff, you're about to waste time. So what I'm going to give you is information. Take some of it, not all of it. Figure out where you want to start. Don't try to do all of it at the same time. I did not start turning this into a podcast until 4 months after. 4 months after I got my feet wet with live streaming, okay? It took 4 months. So remember that. It did not happen all in one day. And if you try to do it all in one day, guess what? You're going to be burnt out and then telling me, oh my gosh, podcasting doesn't work. That's your fault. Don't do that, okay? Don't do it. So Heather does live streaming. I've been watching Heather's live stream. I like them. Hey, Adonia, you mean how many of you should be live streaming? You know what? Don't live stream if you don't want to. You don't have to. I'm just going to give you two different methods, and I'm going to just combine the gap so that if you want to do one, you can do the other. And I know a lot of us have this repurposing in our brain. Right now, I want you to get repurposing out of your head. We are not going to repurpose, okay? We are not going to repurpose because it's going to take much more work than what you have. We're going to start with one thing. I'm going to show you how to bridge the gap, but I don't want you to get overwhelmed because the repurposing thing, I like it, but it's a distraction from what you really want to be doing. Your job is to get on stage and get speaking gigs. If you've been watching, if you've been listening, if you're watching this training later on, you're watching the replay, remember your ultimate job of why you've been watching me all week is so that you can get speaking gigs. It's not so that you can become a master repurposer. It's not so that you can become a master podcaster. It's not so that you can become a master live streamer. These are things you'll learn along the way. But remember, the big goal is to get on stage. And that's where we have to draw a line in the sand, and you need to make a decision. What is your goal? If your goal is to podcast, that's great. Ignore what I'm saying about speaking and just do the podcast. If your goal is to live stream, ignore the podcast, ignore the speaking live stream. But my assumption is that you've been watching me all week so that you can get speaking gigs. And this is why I'm hammering home on this topic, because I need you to be able to focus. Okay? I need you to be able to focus on what you need, what you said you want to do. I like to throw it back in your face. You said you want to do this, but now we're like in the circus. Okay? So this is where we have to put draw the line in the sand and figure out what is the main purpose of this. Because I'm going to talk about 3 different things. I'm going to bridge the gaps, and I just want you to choose one. It got really hot last night, and it's like really dry all of a sudden here in Colorado. So, all right, are you all ready? I'm going to go through this really quickly. I'm going to try not to be here very long, but all right, the first step you need to do, it doesn't matter which one you choose, podcasting or live streaming. I need you to determine the consistency. Is it once a week, every other week, once a month, every day, every other day? It really doesn't matter. Choose one. Choose one, okay? Now, when you choose one, it will determine how long you go, how short you go, what kind of content you want to give, what kind of information. But I just want you to choose one. Determine your frequency. If it's live streaming or if it's podcasting, I don't care. Just choose one. Please, for the love of all that's holy, don't spend 30 days on the internet trying to figure out which time is the best. I got a request yesterday to come and speak about live streaming, which is hilarious. I guess I'm an expert now. But they were like, we want to know the best time, the best day. It doesn't matter. Seriously, it doesn't matter. If you want to get caught up in the weeds of the best time, the best day, the best hour, it doesn't matter. I know people who live stream at 9 o'clock at night and they get 100 people on there. 9 o'clock mountain time. That means it's like almost midnight on the East Coast. There are webinars that start at 8 o'clock on Sundays. I know people who live stream Saturday mornings at 7 a.m. It doesn't matter. If you want to get caught in the weeds, go get caught in the weeds. Just don't be surprised if in 90 days you come back to me and say, Phylecia, I haven't had time to find speaking gigs. Because guess what? You've been wasting time trying to find out what time to do things. Don't do that. I've done it. Trust me. The longer you do it, the more time you are wasting not getting your podcast in the hands of speaker coordinators. Remember, what is our goal? I wish you could all just repeat it. What is our goal to get on stage? Remember, it is August. What you do in these 90 days will pay off with speaking gigs in the next 90 days, okay? But you got to focus right now, all right? I know I sound like I'm like hammering in on you. If I'm being a little aggressive, just let me know today. It's Friday and I need you to like get your budgets going. All right. So decide on your frequency and your consistency level. Okay. Number 2, this is going to be the most important thing I'm going to tell you. No matter what you take away from this, write this down. Your sound is going to be the key. Sound. Don't worry about the lighting. Don't worry about all this other stuff. Tomorrow, I'll tell you all about my lights. Unfortunately, I won't be at home, but I'm going to give you my resource list. I'm going to give it to you today. Hey, Osama, how you doing? I'm going to give you my resource list so that you can kind of see what I'm using to get everything going. Hey, Carrie, how you doing? But your sound is going to be important. Carrie, I'm going to answer your question, so give me a second. The reason why your sound is important, because if you're going to live stream, people need to hear you. You'll be surprised. A lot of people listen to your live streams. They do not watch. And with podcasting, your sound is important. Please, for the love of all that's holy, do not get caught up trying to find the perfect microphone. There are good microphones out there, but I don't want you to get caught in the weeds, but I just want you to remember, if we got to go from one medium to the next, we got to remember what's the most important common denominator from going to live stream to podcasting is going to be your sound. Now, Carrie, I use a Blue Yeti. So let me give you my resource list. I'm going to give you my resource list. Hey, hold on. I wasn't prepared, y'all. What? Oh, and I spelled my thing wrong. See, I don't even know my own website. That's how bad I am. That's how bad I am. All right, I'm going to put it down in the comment box. Here's the list of everything that I use, and I always update this. I even have my clothes on there. That's how bad I am. But I use a Blue Yeti, and the sound is going to be the common denominator, because after this, we got to go into two different levels of what I got to talk about. But your sound is going to be important. For those of you who are live streaming off of your cell phone, it's good. But you're going to have to figure out a way to get the sound off of Facebook. You can go and download your live streams, but the sound is so compressed that by the time you do editing to it, you're going to have to fix it so that it can sound decent. It won't sound bad. You just want to go to decent. That's the best you can do if you're going to rip the audio from your Facebook live streams. And you'll have to go and download it directly from Facebook, which you can, but the sound is going to be, it's just going to be okay. If that's all you have, use it, okay? If that's all you have, use it, all right? And I know you're going to be like, all right, Phylecia, how do we rip sound? How do we get this? All right, I'm going to tell you about it, because I don't use a typical method that most podcasters use. I know a lot of podcasters either use GarageBand or Audacity, which are sound-driven editing tools only. Hey, Cheryl, how you doing over Instagram? Oh, hey, Carrie. I didn't say hey to you. They are sound-driven. I don't use that because I'm producing videos and I'm ripping out sound for the podcast. So I have to use a video editing software. So before we jump into it, just remember, your sound is going to be important. So just get a good sound. The sound, you're going to have to make sure you're in a room that is quiet. Like I shut my door. I make sure that not much is happening. The Blue Yeti is perfect because it does directional and you don't have to hear all of the extra things that may be going outside. So my room is not podcast proofed at this moment. I know a lot of podcasters want to go for crisp sound. I don't do that because I know I'm live streaming and it's just very different. But you're going to have to be careful if you're live streaming from outside or in other places. That's when you're going to have to get the better microphone. You're going to have to get a better microphone, or you're going to have to be in very quiet places. I do like podcasts that have the ambient noise, but if you're only using just the microphone from your phone or from your laptop, it's just not going to be just sexy, okay? So remember, the sound is going to be key. The sound is going to be key. I use a Blue Yeti. I know yesterday Mark kind of gave you, he has all kinds of microphones. He talked about a Rode microphone. I actually have a Rode microphone for my camera. So I don't want you spending a lot of money. I don't want you to get caught in the weeds, but I just want you to be very aware of your sound. That's going to be the common denominator in all of this. Any questions? I know I've been harping on the sound for too long, but that's how important it is if you're going to go from live streaming over into podcasting. The lighting, all that other stuff, we'll talk about that later. That's not the common denominator for podcasting. Nobody sees you on a podcast. So don't worry about your lighting. Seriously, don't worry about your lighting. All right. Now we're about to pivot into the podcast. We're about to pivot into the podcast side. So basically, this is how you're going to launch your podcast. I highly recommend going and checking out podcast websites. They have a very new launch program, and it depends on where you are. If you are a newbie, they have a custom program for you. If you're someone like me who already has a website, they have a custom program. You do not have to start from scratch with your website. I do highly recommend keepupwithmrsjones.com/podcast websites. Just talk to them. You don't have to buy anything right now. Just talk to them and just ask all of these questions, okay? The sound is a little off. I am on my cell phone. For Instagram, I'm very different because I don't have my headphones in. And I'm just really, I'm using the power of the phone. So that's what you get, unfortunately, over on the Instagram side. So that's why I have to really talk loud so to make sure that you can hear me. So the quality of just my phone is never going to be perfect unless you use all kinds of other devices, all right? So let's go into podcast mode. We're going to go into podcast mode. Here are all the details that you will need. So I live stream, but I have to do a lot of extra work. All right, so I'm on the delay. That's something I can't really I'm sorry, Lori. That's probably my Wi-Fi because I'm live streaming. So my husband tells me that I suck up bandwidth like crazy here. So I have high quality live streaming. So that's why in my house it's a little nutty. All right. Podcast mode. So I'm going to give you the output of my podcast. So when I do my podcast, what you see here on the live stream is not exactly the same over on the podcast. When I get to this part of it, it's the same, but I have intro music. I have an intro to the podcast, letting people know where they can find it, what they can do, and letting them know that my podcast is unedited. I do not edit this podcast. You get what you get, hacks and all. So that's why I have to put the intro on. So it's more traditional podcasting, but here's where we get into the weeds. You got to get if you want to use Mr. Movie Voice as your intro. I don't use all of that stuff. It's a little weird to me, but I don't use it. So I have my intro music. I have an intro. Then I layer this show in there. I have to take out the sound. I have to add the outro music. Then I have to publish. You see how it's starting to like get a little busy. And I'm not trying to tell you this to scare you. I'm just letting you know that it takes a little bit of work to get this podcast out there. That's why I saved this to the end so that I can get you to either commit to doing it or not doing it. And it's going to take some effort. Now, it takes me about an hour and a half to get all of this done and to publish it to my podcast. And what I use, and I don't have this on my resource list, I will update it later. I use a video editing software. I used to use Camtasia. It's pretty powerful. I love it. That's how I am able to separate out the video and the audio. Right now, I use Movavi. Unfortunately, my computer kept crashing with Camtasia. I don't think anything's wrong with Camtasia. Something's wrong with my computer. I use Movavi right now. Check the resource list in an hour. I'm going to have it on there. That's how I separate out, because when I bring in the recorded session, it separates the video from the audio so that I can see what's happening. All right. So as you see, this is how I know. You're probably like, damn, Phylecia, this is a lot of work. That's why I say you need to choose which way you want to go, because turning this live stream into a podcast is easier now. It used to take me a couple of hours, but it's a lot easier now. But I've been doing this over, oh my gosh, we are at show 353 now. I've been doing this like 353 times. Do I like Anchor? I don't use Anchor, so I don't know anything about Anchor. I know that it is free. Whatever you use, that's great. Whatever you use for podcasting, I do recommend using podcast websites because they host your website and your podcasts and they get them everywhere. I just don't know Anchor that well, but if it's worth it to you to give it a try it out. I've gone through SoundCloud, Podbean, and all of the different things. I think Anchor is free. The only problem I have with Anchor, because you can launch your podcast for free, I'm not sure if they're layering it with a bunch of ads. And also companies that offer a lot of things for free, you got to be careful, because if they go away, your podcast is unhosted. Yeah, so that's the thing you got to be careful about. But give Anchor a try if you like it. You can always just make sure that you can go grab your stuff later so that you can take it somewhere else if you need to. But I kind of say this, wherever you start with your podcast, just make sure you stay there so that you can, so that you don't have to switch up, because when you get people used to coming to you at one place, you're going to have to make a huge transition so they'll know where you need to go. But the goal is to get this into the hands of speaker coordinators. So I want this on your website at some point. All right. So Angela says she uses Anchor and it's great. It goes everywhere. Easy platform. Yes. Whatever you use it. I'm just telling you what I do so that I can produce a live stream into a podcast. So I use Movavi as my video editor. I'm going to put it on my resource list. What you see me using right now, I use OBS. I used to use Zoom. Zoom is great. You got to pay for the regular subscription of Zoom. Then you have to pay for the webinar feature. It is an additional $40 a month. I like Zoom because it was easy. You press one button, you are live. What you don't get with Zoom, all these cute little things that you see with my name, my logo, you don't get that with Zoom, but it gets the job done. I used it for exactly 1 year. It gets the job done. What Zoom does is that on the other end, it saves a recording onto your desktop of the video and the audio separated. That way you already have the audio. So that's what I was using. Now I use OBS, Open Broadcast Studio. It's free. Huge learning curve, huge learning curve. But at the same time, it does record the video so that I can go and separate the audio from the video. I know we're getting so deep in the weeds. I know we're getting deep in the weeds. Let me know if I'm getting way too deep, but I really want to give you this information so that you don't get caught up trying to understand what you don't need to understand. Okay. So right now, I use, so if you use Zoom, I highly recommend Zoom. It does cost some money. It's $40 addition to what you're already paying monthly. So just remember that cost. OBS, free, learning curve. Free, learning curve, expensive, no learning curve. So just kind of remember what you want to do. But the goal of using those things to go free, to go live, is that you'll get the video and the audio recorded. That's the main goal. So what I do from there is I take the audio, then I edit it. I put my intro on. I put my introduction on. I put my music on, clean it up if I need to, put my outro, boom. I export it out as an MP3. I am done. And then from there, I go to my podcast hosting platform. If you use podcast websites, they will have the method so that you can upload it through them. If you're using SoundCloud, Podbean, Anchor, whatever you use, just use it, okay? But also, the cool thing about podcast websites, it gets to your website at the same time. So just remember that. Carrie says, not too deep. All right, thank you, Carrie. Sometimes I know, like, it could be a snore fest when people get all in the weeds. I just want to make sure I'm not making you snore yet. Monique Renee say, on my Mac, I use Ecamm, but I don't know if it separates audio and video. Yes, you can use Ecamm. I'm not a Mac girl anymore. You can use Ecamm. I know Mark uses Ecamm. Annette, what do you use? Annette, do you use Ecamm? I know some of you use BeLive if you go live stream and things like that. What happens with Ecamm and all of the those type of software, OBS is Monique Renee, is that they will record for you. So what you'll have to do is that you'll have to put it into a video editor so that it'll separate the sound from the video. So that's why I use a video editor, because if you just use a sound editor, sometimes when you finish your live stream, it may not separate it for you. Zoom did separate. That was the beautiful thing about Zoom, is that it separated it on recording for you. So you had an MP3 and an MP4. For those of you who don't know, MP3 sound, MP4 video. MP3 sound, MP4 video. Okay, we got all of that. What I don't know about Ecamm and what OBS does not do, it doesn't separate for me. So I have to put it into a video editor. It'll instantly separate so I can get rid of the video and just see the sound. Let me know if that makes sense. Hey, Elaine, how you doing? I'm not a Mac girl. So for those of you don't, iMovie can work. As long as iMovie is a video editor, it should work. You should be able to see your sound, because the cool thing about video editors is that they layer the video, the sounds, words. You get you see all the layers of everything. So, Carrie, just go and check out iMovie. It should work. For newbies, all the things that are coming on your Mac, they are good for right now. They are good for the first year. When you decide that you're deep into the podcasting live streaming game, then you can upgrade. Right now, use what's available for free or cheap. Okay? So for any of you, hey Beatrice, how you doing? And so Angela is saying she used the podcasting recording app. So yes, and I know a lot of the other, like Podbean, they have a recording app. That's perfect. I don't use that because I live stream. And so remember, today I'm talking about how to go from a live stream to a podcast. And I'm just stepping through the process that I use. I've never used the app on my phone. And that's the other thing. Just make sure your sound, like I said earlier, your sound is going to be key to everything. Make sure your sound is good. I don't really care how you're doing it. Just make sure your sound is good. Get good headphones, whatever. Go in a quiet place. Make sure it sounds well. That's the killer of a lot of podcasts, when it sounds like crap. Sound, all right? Hey, Lane, she's watching. She's coming late. We'll watch the replay. That's okay. The video is here, all right? So now, after I've done my live stream, I take the recording, put it into the Movavi, into the video editor, separate the video from the sound, put all the intros on. I put my outro on, export it as an MP3. Remember, please keep a running log of everything you're doing. It makes life easier. You got to start documenting and keeping a spreadsheet of everything you're doing, because remember, I told you earlier on Tuesday, we got to be able to send very specific podcasts to speaker coordinators. And if you can't find your podcast show, they're not going to go through all of them. And don't send them just listen to my podcast. No, I want you to send them very specific shows. So like if I wanted to send this show out to speakers needing gigs, I'm going to say, hey, on episode 355 of Ask the Budgetologist, I went deep into video editing. So that's why you got to keep a running log. So that's what I do. And then the podcast is ready to go. It's easy and not easy at the same time. It's just a time consuming thing. All right. That's what I do after, like, the moment that I'm done live streaming. I go through all of those steps. I get the recording, put it in the video editor, separate it out. I put my tail, I put my head on, I put my tail on, I export it, I upload it, boom, it's ready to go. And then I can put it on my website or anything like that. I know for Annette, who is definitely, because of podcast websites, once you upload it, it can instantly go to your website. So that's the cool thing about podcast websites. You don't have to take those extra steps like I have done, in the past. You don't have to take all those extra steps. All right. All right. Any questions? Any questions on getting the podcast out there? I know I talked about a lot of things and I didn't go deep. The cool thing, if you go over to keepupwithmrsjones.com/podcast websites, you can look for the Podcast Success Academy, absolutely free. They can go into the weeds if you want to go into the weeds on all of this. I mean, they can go into the weeds galore. I'm not a weeds person because I'm not podcasting. I'm just a lightweight in the podcasting world, and you can go very deep. But remember, our goal, that's why I'm always circling back. Your goal is to get speaking gigs, not to become a podcaster, not to become a live streamer. Your goal is to get speaking gigs. So I want to make sure that's the priority so that we don't get it. Now, if you decide that you don't want to do speaking gigs and you want to be a podcaster, go deep and make it sound good. Okay. Go deep. All right. That's what I want you to do. So those are the steps. Any questions, any question on the podcasting side of it? Any questions? And so here are the key pieces that I have to use to go from the live stream is OBS or Zoom. I like Zoom, OBS or Zoom, so that I can get the recording, so that I can extract everything out for the podcast. And this is why I'm telling you, if you are live streaming and you're using Facebook, it's going to be very difficult, because a lot of the shows, if you actually go and look at my list of shows, you'll see that I go from like episode 350 to 353, because sometimes I have to go live from my phone and the quality is shitty. Just being honest. And so that's why I have to like skip a few shows, because one is just not good quality. And I cannot get decent enough sound. I did do one and posted it up to the podcast. I had to do so much work in editing just to bring the sound levels up. But if you're playing with sound levels, trying to adjust them, it's going to sound screechy. It's going to be like, yeah, you don't want that. And that's because Facebook compresses things down so that people like me who are bandwidth hogs don't kill Facebook. So it's compressed down a lot. How long does it take to edit after your show? I don't edit the show. That's the beautiful thing about live streaming. So when you listen to the podcast version of this, in the beginning, it says, this is unedited, unscripted. You get what you get. So I don't edit this show. what you hear is what you're going to hear on the podcast. The only editing I do is I have to kind of cut some beginning out and cut some of the end out because of some things that I do here with OBS. I don't edit because I know me. When I had my first podcast, I edited out every cough, every every restart. It took me 5 hours to do one flipping show, and I hated it. And my husband had to put a rein on me because he was like, you're spending way too long editing a show. It would literally take me all day to sit there and edit out because I wanted every every cough, every space, every gap. I don't do that anymore. That's going to be a personal preference up to you. I just wanted to get it done. And you get what you get with me. If you want to go for perfect, you can damn near try. Just don't be surprised if it takes too long, okay? So I don't do a lot of editing. Annette, I'm not sure if Annette is here. Annette, if you're still on, please let us know how long does it take for you to edit your show. And I know Twyla launched a podcast before, but they had an editor. So, so there is some editing, like putting it in the video editor and adding the intro and outro and uploading. Yes, Money. Okay, so you're talking about, so in podcasting world, when they say editing, you're trying to do all that other stuff. I have a template. Here's the beautiful thing about the movie editor that I use. I have a template already ready to go. So all I have to do is slap this puppy in and then I'm done. It took me a couple of hours to create the template. So Wednesday, everything got deleted by mistake. But because I knew the template, I could recreate it in an hour. And I had to recreate the intro, I already had the music and everything. But because my show is so simple, I don't do a lot of things. I don't have Mr. Movie voice. I don't put in, I know a lot of people like to edit and put in, you're listening to episode 35. You're listening to episode 36. Girl, I do not have time for that. So I keep my editing very simple, but if you use that, then you'll have to put it on. I used to do it for my first podcast where I had to go in and put in, here's what we talked about on this show. Here's the actual show. I was just getting too frustrated with the process, so I just don't do that anymore. But for me, the moment I log off here, I go get some tea, eat some oatmeal. It takes me about 20 minutes to get everything going, to get it up, to get it published. So about 20 minutes. And Twyla saying, if you want professional editing podcasts, I know a great editor, very reasonable, very reliable. Yes, I know an amazing editor as well. So you'll have to decide if you want that level. Just personal choice at this point. I'm kind of with Mark, and like, I don't want you to get caught up with editing too much. Just get it out there. But personal choice, if you want to edit it, or if you go a hot mess like me. I'm a hot mess. I'm like what some podcasters don't like. I don't care. I've been doing all this. So Monique saying, wow, thanks. Annette is saying, I remember that. I've also spent 6 hours on one show, but now it takes about an hour max, if that. I keep it super simple because I use Auphonic, but I do have bumpers, segments, etc. So Annette has bumpers, and that's the beginning and intro. So as you can see, I'm not pure podcast lingo. So if you have bumpers and segments, it just really depends. I did it for my first podcast and it took a long time in editing. At this point, it's up to you how you want to do it. But when you have a live stream, it really is very hard to edit a live stream because you're talking to people, and I keep all of this reading of talking to people in. So it's just going to be a little difficult, but you have to kind of decide how you want to present it on the other side. Okay. Woo, that was a lot. I'm tired. Any questions? Any questions on any of that? Any questions? Now, for the live streaming side, and I've kind of told you this and I've been alluding to it at the same time. For the live streaming side, sound. Make sure your sound, if you're going to convert into a podcast, okay? Sound. We'll worry about the lighting and everything later. But remember, if you're going to your phone as a live stream, you're going to have to be very careful about that sound because you're going to have to rip it from Facebook, rip it from Twitter, or rip it wherever you're going live. and it starts to compress, so the sound may be just a little weird. It's going to be a little weird, all right? And what I do is I use a third party to get into Facebook Live. I use OBS, and like I said, I've used Zoom. They're really great. I have been very, 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 very happy with Zoom. If you go to my resource list, it is on there. You can kind of check it out and everything. I've been very happy with Zoom. I let my husband touch my computer, and he changed everything. Yesterday, for Mark's interview, I used Zoom. That's the only way that I can guarantee to get him on camera, to get the recording, and get good quality sound. So yesterday with Mark's interview, I used Zoom into OBS, into Facebook. I know I just made that very difficult. Trust me, we had to practice for about an hour to make sure all that crap would work. You don't have to get that fancy. You really don't have to get that fancy. So Monique is asking, do I use a similar process and upload to YouTube? All right, here's the deal with YouTube. I'm not a YouTuber. I do not consider myself a YouTuber. And I have not tried to build my YouTube page, but I do have it. This is where I want you to focus on one platform. Seriously, wherever you're going to do your live streaming, Facebook, YouTube, I don't care. Focus on one and get to know it, because growing a YouTube channel is different than growing a Facebook channel. I want people to have one place to go, but I do have a YouTube. What I use, Monique, with OBS, because OBS can be very, very fancy. I have a bumper. If you've ever watched the beginning, I have a bumper with OBS, and I have I have bumpers in the beginning and the end. I'm using podcast lingo now. I do have an intro and an outro using OBS. OBS is tricky. Like I said, cheap, free. OBS is free. Learning curve this big. Free though, but learning curve this big, but it's cute. So I can put an intro and an outro. I'll even show you right now. I'm going to flip for a minute. So here's the intro. Now I'm back. As you see, I had to click to get there. Here's the outro. But I have to click to get through it. So I got like multiple things going on over here. And because OBS can record, what I do immediately after this show, I have to stop it really quick. I instantly go straight up to YouTube. That's what I didn't do a lot of editing. That's why I used a video editor. That's why I use a video editor, because before I was putting in different words and everything for the video side of it. And I can export as a video and an export as an MP3. That's why I use a video editor, so that I can at least have video later. Every blue moon, I do put the video onto my website, depending on, not all of these shows are website quality worthy, but that's why I was using a video editor, just in case if a show is really good, I can go and do a few things to the video. I can put in a header. I can put in like little call outs. I could put in these type of little call outs. I mean, as you see, my logo is here. I can put those things. That's why I use a video editor. OBS kind of makes it a little bit easier, but every now and then I have to do a few things if I want to do like a really good video. That's why I use video editor to get the MP4 and the MP3. Let me know if that makes sense. Let me know if that makes sense. Okay. So here's my process. As soon as I'm done with the live, I stop everything, instantly go up to YouTube. I do all my archive work to make sure everything is good, make sure the show was recorded, because every now and then I might forget to hit record. I do the editing. I cut off the video bumpers, add in the podcast bumpers. Then I upload it to hosting. Then it's out to the world. And the other parts with podcasting is that now you got to go make sure you're podcasting in iTunes, Stitcher, Player FM, Google Play, Google Podcasts, all of the places. That's the beauty about podcast websites. You don't have to go and do all those damn places. I didn't know that. Monique is saying, was thinking that people looking for speakers would want to see you, thus YouTube. Well, at that point, Monique, I put everything on my website. Remember, as a speaker, you want to bring everybody to your website. Bring them to your website, because on your website are all of your other speaking details, are your contact information, and how they can get to you faster. You don't want people to click a lot. As a speaker coordinator, if I got to go to YouTube, then I got to scroll through YouTube and look at all the silly comments. Then I got to find the link to your website. Then I got to go back to your website. Then I got to go through the video again. As a speaker, you want them to go to one place. If they just happen to find you on YouTube, that's great. But you don't want to send them to YouTube. You want to send them your website with the link to the video. Okay? Because you want all the other details there as well. YouTube is great as well. I have nothing against YouTube. If that's what you want to use it. But me as a speaker coordinator, if you make me keep clicking a whole bunch of buttons, I get bored. If I got to click now, if your stuff is good, then I'm going to be clicking all day. But if you're just like, all right, then I'm done clicking. I don't want to click inside of your thing to go to YouTube. Then I got to go click and get back to your website. Then I got to click through some other things. You want to bring people to your website. Remember, your website is going to be your golden home as a speaker. Okay. That's why I like podcast websites, because your podcast goes to, oh my gosh, I broke something. Because your podcast goes to your website. I think I broke something, y'all. Okay, I think we're good. So something broke for a second. All right. Twyla Annette is saying, I've been live streaming once a week for about 7 months and I've stuck with it out of stubbornness. However, the views are extremely varied and most of the time I don't have anyone live. Thoughts? Live streams are, I'm going to just be straight up honest, they are a little difficult. As you can see, I've been doing this for over a year and I still don't get a lot of views. I'm thankful for all of the views, but if you're going to have to push people into your live stream. So here's what I do in that. When I speak, it's kind of like what Mark does. You got to have one central place where everyone goes. If they're going to your podcast, they're not going to your live stream. That's why I'm a live streamer first and a podcaster second. You got to decide where you want people to go. So whenever I speak, whenever I'm networking, I tell people I live stream. Go watch the live stream. This is how I answer questions for people. So you're just going to have to, that's why I say, even for Monique, you can put your videos on YouTube, but you're going to have to do extra work to get people to go there. So that's why I only want you to choose one platform. Annette started off as a podcaster. That's probably where you're going to get the majority of your people. You're going to have to go that extra leg, that extra step to get people to come to your live stream. So the best person I can recommend who's done this is Gary Vaynerchuk. Shailene Johnson is really good. If you like Shailene Johnson, when you decide to jump into another platform, you got to go all in and you're going to have to get people to go to that platform versus the other one for some amount of time. So for a while, you're going to have to redirect people to your live stream and not necessarily your podcast. That's a big choice to make, especially if you're still building. That's why I say do one and get people to go to that one place. That's why if you ever go look at my downloads for my podcast, they suck. The downloads for my podcast suck because I've been trying to get people to come to the live stream. That's what I've been leading with. But my podcast is there just in case. So this year, I'm actually putting in some effort to get the podcast out there. With that effort, I have been driving people to the podcast and it has been working. So you got to kind of choose where you want people to go. Okay. And, Twyla is saying, Annette, I've been listening to a lot of people who Facebook Live say the same thing. Most of their views come afterwards as it's replaying in their feed. Most of them do what Phylecia does and go live on Instagram, Snapchat, as well as maximize traffic and views. All right. Here's the thing. Twyla just loaded you all up with a bunch of information. That's what a lot of people do. But here's the thing. I only started going live on Instagram in the last few months. Choose one. Figure out where your point of destination is. Seriously. If you do all these things and you can find me on Twitter, you could do this. It's like, where do you want people to go? Where do you want people to go? You got to remember that because they can go everywhere. It's kind of like, you know how you meet the independent consultants who do skincare. I'm not pointing people out, but they say, I work with anyone with skin. That means I can't recommend with you. When you point people everywhere, they will go nowhere. So you're going to have to choose where you want people to go. We've been talking podcasting. That's why I've only been really focusing on the podcasting to get you in podcast mode so that we can get people to your podcast, get them to your website. Like I said, that's why I really do like podcast websites, because now your podcast is instantly on your website. That's where you will send people. Okay. So we got to think about all of that. You got to stop. Edison just did a research. He was saying you got to stop telling people all these different places. You got to choose one place for people to go so they'll know exactly what to do. One place. Remember, if you give me 1,200 ways to get to your house, guess what? I'm going to the bar. I'm just not getting to your house. Okay. And you'll have to put your effort into whatever it is. I've been putting all of my effort into live streaming. So that's why my podcast is secondary. Because I've been live streaming for over a year now, I'm going to put a little bit more effort into the podcast. Please be aware of what I'm saying. I've been doing this over a year now. I didn't do it in 3 months, and then I tried to go do all the podcasting. I've been doing this for over a year. This year, I'm going to focus on getting the podcast going. Just remember that, all right? And remember, and like Annette is saying, the goal is getting speaking gigs. The goal is to get speaking gigs. And the goal is speaking. So I already have the podcast assets and some speaking so I can leverage what I already have. Yes. Remember what your goal is. If it's speaking, if it's live streaming, if it's podcasting, choose one. Stop trying to be everywhere. I swear to God, stop trying to be everywhere. You don't have to. Choose your home and stay there. Choose your home, people. Stop being homeless. Stop it. All right. We've been going for a bit. We've been going almost an hour. So I need to wrap up. I know this is way too much information. If you have a question, if I didn't address something, please put it down right now. I will stay here until the last question is answered. Okay. This is a lot of information, but I want to make sure you get it. For all of you who are watching the replay, thank you so very much. I know it's very long, but I want to make sure you understand. I really do. I'm one of those people. I don't try to sell you on, okay, this is just easy. All you have to do is this. All you have to do is this. No, I want to make sure that you completely, and maybe this is to the fault of why I'm probably stuck at business sometimes. I want to make sure it's very clear of what is going on. This is a lot of work behind the scenes, and it's a lot of things to put together. Okay. It's a lot of things to put together. I just want to make sure you understand, especially if somebody is saying it's just going to be just like that. No, this is not Thanos and the Infinity War. I wish I can snap and make everybody disappear sometimes. Man, life would be so much easier, but it's not like that. So I just want to be very clear. I've been putting in a lot of things. Hey, Cheryl, thank you. This is a year effort. And even with live streaming, the research that I've done recently, I have a talk on live streaming now. If you want to see money come from your live stream, what the Twitter research has shown and what the Twitch is for video gamers, you got to live stream almost daily for a consistent amount of time for up to 2 to 3 years. You hear that? To see significant gains, unless you already have a following and unless you're already a celebrity. What you have to do is stick to it for at least 2 years. So I've actually signed up. I'm doing this for another year. I'm probably going to do it for another one because I just need it in my morning routine. This is where you talk about big girls separating from little girls and ovaries being powered up. This is where this Wednesday we talked about consistency. You're going to have to make a decision and start and stick with it. People like Pat Flynn, people like Mark Asquith, people like John Lee Dumas, they have been podcasting for years now. Years. Not 1 month, not 3 months, and then like, oh my gosh, I don't have 1 million people. Years. I think Pat Flynn is almost, is he at 7 years now? Years, people. Years to build up an audience that way. Years, okay? That's why I'm telling you, you don't have to be everywhere. Choose year 1 where you want to be, then add on year 2. Gary Vaynerchuk is probably the best person to see what he did because he was just a Twitter. Gary V was all Twitter. And then he decided to go Facebook. And boy, when he went in all in. And then he went did he go YouTube next? Now he's on Snap. When he decides to go all in on one thing, he goes all in, but it's not at the same time because you don't have the bandwidth. You don't have the resources to do it. Choose one. Choose one. Twyla is not loving me right now because I keep saying the words focus, consistency, stick to it. Okay. Yes, Twyla. These ugly, nasty little words. I mean, Annette, how long have you been podcasting now? How long have you been podcasting? And Annette's saying it's simple but not easy, and there are sequences to follow. Yes, there are a lot of sequences. Choose your home, all right? All right, I'm just going to go quick, and then we're going to get off. So, because you got to go do income producing activities. It's almost 9:00 Mountain Time. Decide on your consistency level. Make sure your sound is really good. That's going to be key if you're going to bridge the gap from live streaming to podcasting. Sound. You don't need a fancy setup. If you go back and look at what Mark was saying yesterday, you don't need a fancy setup, but you can have things. I use a Blue Yeti microphone. Just make sure your sound, quiet spot, you're good. Podcasting. Bumpers, segments, intros. You're going to need all of that stuff. Don't get in the weeds. If you want professional editing, figure out if it works for you. If not, I don't edit. But when I go from here, I upload it to YouTube, quick and easy. I use OBS, but I do love Zoom as well to go live. I separate the video from the audio. I take the audio, edit it, put the bumpers on, put it up to hosting. Done. All right. And then Instagram shut me off. I've been on too long. And then I go from there. But from live streaming, I use OBS and or Zoom, depending on what I'm doing. That way it records, it gives me the audio and or video at the same time, and then I can go and use it to upload. All right. So for those of you on Instagram, I'm so sorry. So sorry. Instagram's like, girl, you are done. We've been doing this for over an hour now. So Annette says, since 2015, I think I have to check LOL. 2015, and it takes a while to build up an audience. So consistency, people, consistency. You got to stick with it. This is not a 3-month, 6-month, or a 5-month project. If you think now you can leverage what your podcast is doing just to get the speaking gigs faster. But if you're trying to grow an audience, it's going to take a while. But at least you can have the content so speaking coordinators can see what you're doing. Whew. All right, y'all, we need to go. If this information has been good, let me know. Like I said, if you leave me a testimonial, video, written, email it to me at Phylecia at Keep Up with Mrs. Jones. You can put it in a comment box. You can DM. You can leave a review on the Facebook page. If you leave a review for Podcast Week and you've been enjoying it, I will set this up so that you can get lifetime access to all of this. I'm going to add in all kinds of little extras to it, and it's yours absolutely free because I love all of you for sticking in with me. I appreciate you. So have an amazing day. Take care. Happy budgeting. See you later. Bye.